Australia has many stories of success against the odds. From humble beginnings, rags to riches. Meet Australians who have made their own way, their lives, loves, triumphs and tragedies, and what they can offer others who, as they once did, just need a chance. True stories of Australians who have dared to be the best that they can, taking the time to reflect on where it all began. With little education or money, Tom Potter has used keen instincts and a love for the food industry to grow a business from virtually nothing into an international franchising empire. After a turbulent early life and career in rough and tumble regional Australia, Tom combined brilliance as a baker with a strong work ethic and an innate business sense to revolutionise the fast food industry. Finding himself back in his hometown of Albury in New South Wales with little more than the will to succeed, he started a pizza business and watched it grow from one small country town shop to over 250 Eagle Boys outlets across Australia and New Zealand. But he will still help to make a difference where it's needed, on where it all began. Growing up in the country towns of Bendigo and Beechworth in Victoria and Albury in New South Wales, Tom Potter and his brothers enjoyed a happy childhood and learned all about hard work early on. His father, Ronald, had sold everything he had and borrowed heavily to purchase the Murray Bridge Brewery lemonade factory in Beechworth.
We never had summer holidays or anything like that as a family because that was the busy time. You know, Dad had about 4 or 5 months to make all the money for the business for the whole year. So it was all hands on deck. You'd be working on the bottling line and down there and jockeying on trucks, driving trucks up through the Riverina in 40-degree heat, climbing up and down the side of cellars in pubs full of redback spiders. I mean, it was fun, but it was hard work.
Hard as they were, Tom's early experiences in the factory and then a chance encounter in the town bakery would prove to be life-changing.
I think it runs in the blood. You know, 4 generations on Dad's side, they're all in food. I remember going through the Beechworth bakery when I was a kid, maybe 13 or 14 years old, going in there late one night and the bakers asking me if I wanted to stick around for an hour and give them a hand. And I just remember falling in love with the bakery, the smell and all the moving parts and the warmth of the place. Just watching everything going on, I just found the whole environment to be invigorating, exciting, and you know, it was just a beautiful environment that I never lost the love for.
Discouraged and disinterested at school, typically Tom at age 15 took matters into his own hands.
I reckon I might have been one of those undiagnosed ADD kind of students. I don't think it actually existed in those days. So I struggled with not just concentration, but boredom. I wanted to go and pursue a career in food. And there was an apprenticeship advertised over in Wodonga as a baker. I went and did the interview without Mum and Dad knowing, and I actually hitchhiked over and applied for the job. And that Mum and Dad got a surprise phone call from these guys saying, oh, we want Tom to come back for another interview. And that was when the discussion sort of erupted as to what was going on here.
Tom's mother, Barbara, had some reservations about Tom leaving school so young, but agreed to go with him to the interview with the manager of Sunny Crust Bakeries.
His name was Bert Smith. He was the general manager of Sunny Crust. And we got into a sort of a discussion about, Bert was almost sort of saying to me, I think you probably should go back to school and come back and see us in a couple of years. And I don't know, I don't remember this, but Mum does, and I apparently said to him, well, when did you leave school? And he actually said to me, well, I left when I was 15 and started my apprenticeship.
And this cheeky little kid of mine turned around and he said to this man, excuse me, Mr. Smith, but he said, what is your position with Sunnycrust? And he said, well, actually, Tom, he said, I'm the Australian manager of Sunnycrust. And Tom said, well, you did okay.
I think he must have seen a different outcome to that interview and, you know, literally turned around to Mum and said, we'll have him.
Tom Potter had left home at the age of 15 to forge his way in the career that had captivated him in Beechworth years before. His apprenticeship at Sunnycrust Bakery was to be a dream come true.
To this day, it was probably the worst job I've ever had in my life. They treated their employees incredibly badly. So the lessons I picked up about looking after employees, making sure you've got a nice cultural environment that people actually want to go to work and enjoy it, making sure that you learn as much skill as you possibly can and enrich the people. I mean, I can't think of too many things that I learnt out of that place that were actually good. It was more about what not to do in future environments that I worked in. I was sacked on the day I finished my apprenticeship. They treated apprentices like slave labour. You're now too expensive to continue to employ, so I was gone. There wasn't any fallback for me, so I think I was extremely motivated by fear and fear of failure. I almost walked out thinking this might be a bit of an opportunity to further educate myself in the trade or travel. I had this feeling that wherever I went after that was going to be better anyway. So I jumped on a bus and I went to Alice Springs. Got a job up there working in a bakery and playing football. And thought I'd probably spend a bit of a while bumming around the Northern Territory just learning about a new place because I'd never really travelled or lived outside of Victoria. And that 12 months in Alice Springs for me was just a wonderful experience.
The experience gained in the bakery made Tom's Alice Springs adventure all the richer. But it wasn't to last. With his parents divorcing and his mother devastated at the death of her mother, Tom headed to Albury to be with her. Needing work, he was offered a position as manager at the newly opened Coles Super Kmart Bakery.
Coles had a lot of retail guys running their businesses, but they didn't have any bakers. So I sort of helped educate these retail guys that were running the business that bread was the most perishable product in the entire supermarket. They'd only ever been in an environment as if you filled up the shelf with cans of baked beans and they didn't sell it, they'd sell it the next day. And I sort of had this theory that we needed to minimise the shelf space and maximise the turnover and ensure that we weren't throwing out 15 trolley loads of bread every day. They came and saw me and said, we've got 20 bakeries in Melbourne and none of them make money, but this is the only one. We want to come up and do a study on how this one's much more profitable than anything else. And after they had a bit of a look at it, they sort of came back and said, we might bring you down to Melbourne and start helping show the guys what to do. My job was to travel around Victoria, parts of South Australia, and open up all of their new hot bread kitchens. So that was a really good education because you're literally every 4 to 6 weeks opening up a bakery, training up 20 or 30 staff, installing new equipment. That was an area that I really got fascinated with because product design was one thing, but being able to mix product design with equipment design, you could make places so incredibly efficient if you knew what you were doing.
Tom was approached by a home delivery pizza company in Adelaide about coming on board to help them expand their operation interstate, particularly in Sydney.
I met up with a guy and he said, we're starting up this new chain of business and it's called Dialer Pizza and no one had heard of it before. I was mesmerised by this new industry with a lot of excitement, and I had no qualms in leaving to go and further pursue an industry that I thought had a really exciting future. It was a horrible experience, really.
Tom Potter had gone to Sydney for what he saw as a golden opportunity in the Dialer Pizza business, which for Tom seemed to have limitless potential. The move proved to be disastrous.
We opened up the first dozen franchises. Most of the franchisees struggled with the ability to make any profit. There was a lack of infrastructure to really get this thing up and running properly, and there was a lot of mistakes made. Within 9 months of me being there, my relationship with the boss broke down pretty badly because I could see franchisees losing their shirt, and I was pretty much dismissed from my job in Sydney because of my vocal concerns about the business.
Returning to Albury jobless and having to move back in with his mother, Tom was determined he would turn things around.
I was possibly thinking about going back in the baking industry. There was a few things rolling around, but the pizza thing really had caught me. I really thought, particularly because the country towns weren't getting any kind of service like that, I really thought there was a big opportunity. So Mum and myself started talking about the possibility of opening up a home delivery pizza business in Albury.
It was very obvious to me. He knew the caper. He knew all about the makings of the pizza business. But Tom was only very young, so he didn't have any ready cash.
Barbara Potter decided to back her son's instincts and put her entire life savings on the line, while Tom relied on his professional life experience.
The Sydney pizza concept was that they had to have a central factory to supply everything out to all the stores. So when Mum and I started talking about the home delivery pizza business, she sort of reminded me that you're a baker with background in industrial design and understanding product. So why don't you design it so you can produce everything on site? A lot of the little old Italian pizza shops did that, but we were talking about big volume. We were talking about putting in equipment and putting out thousands of pizzas a week, and so it was a different style of thinking.
Where it all began for me was right here in Albury back in February 1987. In fact, this is the first shop that Eagle Boys opened. And I've got to remember, on the first day it was about 43, 44 degrees. It was one of the most stinking hot days. It was uncomfortable. We couldn't get any work done. Everything was being delivered and our refrigeration wasn't working, the phones wouldn't work. But 4 o'clock that day, February 1987, we opened up the first Eagle Boys store and we went from there.
We were instantly cash flow positive, but we were doing 2, maybe 3 times the volume of the pizza shops that I was originally involved with in Sydney. So with that came a lot of growing pains. But, we worked our way through those problems.
Tom was also very aggressive with marketing, and through unique advertising concepts, his Eagle Boys shop was quickly the talk of the town.
We were punching out flyers into people's letterboxes. We were on television almost immediately, produced our own television ads, dressing up guys in eagle costumes and having them catching the customers as they were driving past. They were just really out there, really wonderful ideas.
The success of the Albury store was to be just the beginning.
After working with companies like Coles, where you opened up dozens and dozens of stores, that was my thinking. We're going to go and open up a lot of these stores in regional areas. If you can do it once, you can do it 50 times. And we opened up Wagga on the smell of an oily rag. But the beauty of it was Wagga traded better than Albury. And that really threw the cash in the can.
Soon, he opened another store in Dubbo.
And then I started coming across a lot of problems, trying to manage these 3 stores that were 6 hours drive apart. All these regional stores are too hard to manage. We need to bring owner-operators in from the front counter. That was when we sat down and had the conversation about franchising Eagle Boys. So we're switching from the pizza business to the people business. We found that in a very short period of time, most of the franchisees were actually running more profitable, better businesses than we did as a company owned. There was no hunch. We already knew we had a successful business. It was a matter of putting the right person behind the wheel.
Taking care to properly nurture his franchisees, Tom has watched Eagle Boys blossom into one of the greatest franchising empires that Australia has seen, creating a legacy that thousands of people on both sides of the Tasman have thrived with. Soon, Tom will create another legacy in his hometown of Albury, one that is perhaps a little more modest, but to Tom, no less important.
You're allowed to cry.
After taking a chance and opening a small pizza shop in Albury, in country New South Wales, Tom Potter went on to build Eagle Boys into one of the most successful franchise chains in Australian history. His book, The Eagle Boys Pizza Story, is an amazing tale of a young country boy taking on and conquering the business world.
It's certainly been a ton of fun pursuing something that you have a passion for.
20 years after that passion took hold of him back in Albury, Tom Potter sold his interest in Eagle Boys and retired a very rich man. But full retirement was never an option for Tom. He decided he would again turn to what he does best and take a chance opening 2 new bakeries in Brisbane, Queensland. Crusty Devils.
I've had a few people say to me over the years, you know, you got knocked on your ass a few times and what continued to make you get up and keep going? And I said to them, well, there really wasn't a lot of choice. I reckon I succeeded about 51% of the time. First of all, I didn't dwell on the failures. Second of all, I learnt from them. And I think having people around you that continue to encourage you will make you a better person.
In keeping with that outlook, back in Albury, Tom has been impressed with YES, or Youth and Family Services, a community organisation that provides support and advocacy for the youth of the Albury-Wodonga region.
Melissa, this is Tom Potter.
As a part of where it all began, Tom was asked to identify someone who he believes has overcome great challenges themselves and would benefit from a helping hand. Through YES, Tom has met Melissa.
I was 11 when I first started going in and out of home. Me and Mum never really saw eye to eye, and she kicked me out. I was homeless. I didn't really care about where my life was going, where I was going to end up. I got into trouble with the police, shoplifting and drugs, and fell pregnant. Knowing that I had someone else's life in my hands, it changed everything. If it wasn't for him, I don't even know where I'd be right now.
She got accommodation for herself and her young son. She maintained that. She showed that she was, she had those skills. She's a great mum. She's a great person.
From being where I was, you know, like 3 years ago to where I am now, I've grown up a lot. I'm not doing any of the bad stuff I used to, and you learn from every mistake that you make. I have to do 11 and 12 next year.
Tom can see just how hard Melissa is trying to turn things around. Today, she has two main priorities: getting her driver's license and finishing her studies.
I'm doing my year 11 and 12 through TAFE, and then I'm doing Cert 4 in youth work, and then my diploma in youth work. And I'll be able to help other people the way that I was helped.
You left home pretty young.
Yeah.
Tom can see that, like him, Melissa has the determination to bounce back from life's hard lessons. He has decided to offer her a chance.
So I'm going to help you get your driver's license. But the sooner the better, because I'm going to buy you a car. Because you need transport. You've got a little bloke that you've got to get around. He's got to be safe.
Tom has also offered to pay for Melissa's driving lessons and all her study expenses.
You're allowed to cry.
I don't want to. Thank you. A big thank you. He's helped me, he's helped my son. I'm unbelievably thankful for it. You need people like that. You need people to help you and to try and understand you. And without them, some people would be left with no one.
Tom has provided Melissa not charity, but an opportunity.
Let's go do some shopping.
It is now up to Melissa to follow in the footsteps of Tom Potter and forge out her own way, lay out her own future, and follow her dreams.
Well, that's my story, and I think my story is not a lot different to others. It's about persistence and getting knocked down and getting back up and learning about what to do along the way. Probably the best part about my journey is that there's been hundreds of other people and able to join with me and enjoy it and have a lot of fun as well. So it's not over yet, long way to go, but it's been a hell of a ride so far.